Welcome everyone. I hope you've all had a good week. I'm sorry I'm sounding so croaky. I've still got a very bad chest infection, but I am on antibiotics. Apparently there's something going round my area at the moment. When I went to the doctors, they said that's all they've been doing this week was giving out antibiotics. So I'm sorry I weren't around last week. I was in bed. It was not good. We've got another heat wave in the UK, so having a heat wave with a chest infection is pretty taxing. Hi Fairy Hedgehog, hi everyone. Yeah, but I'm nowhere near back to better, but I don't want to miss 2 weeks, so I thought I'll come and do this, and then go back to bed afterwards. So, as a quick, this is my item of the week. It is a cute penguin in a wheelchair, and it's a trinket box, so lid comes off and you've got a star. This one's quite a deep one actually. You've got like almost the top 2 sections of my finger can go in. No feet on this one, so it stands quite solidly. I didn't want to put feet on because there's quite a lot of height to the top, but I'm very pleased with him. He's £18 and he's in my Etsy shop at the moment. Right, let's stick him out the way.
Very Hedgehog said about the smileys, Charlie has better ones than she can find, and that's a lovely box.
Thank you.
Charlie said my smiley faces come as part of my general keyboard, so I'm not sure.
I didn't know keyboards came with their own smiley packages. That's pretty interesting actually. Right, the pig statue that I worked on the last time I was on, I was doing that last piglet off air because you'd seen lots of them. Well, it's done, it's baked, it's varnished, and I'm really pleased with it. I love the way that it's got those little nose wrinkles on the top of the snout. So yeah, very very happy. And if you see the stone that we picked has got quite a lot of pink running through it. I'm going to put that in my shop as soon as I feel well enough. I haven't worked out its price, but it's going to probably be the same as all the others with the crystal hearts. I can't remember what that is right now, sorry. Right, I'm going to be drinking a lot because my throat is terrible, and I have got a button I can push if I start coughing, because I am coughing a lot, and that will mute me out.
Very Hedgehog says, oh, that's adorable. Love the piggies.
Thank you.
It really is a stunning picture.
As a quick side thing I want to show you, Fairy Hedgehog, who is my mother-in-law, went on holiday with my father-in-law, and they got my husband the best gift ever. I've not seen anything like this, and I wanted to show you. They went to the Zeppelin Museum, and it's a tape measure, but it's in sections, it's wood, and each section folds out into another part of a tape measure, and it goes all the way up, very very long. And if you can fold out in different sections if you wish. I don't know why you'd want to, but I've never seen a wooden rule that folds up like that, and I think it's awesome. So great find, you guys. Really really cool. So I showed you the other week that I made this lovely rainbow coloured base, and I wanted something quite dark on it, so I've decided I'm gonna do a spooky gnarly looking tree with an owl in it. And I know on a couple of the Polymer clay Facebook groups that I'm part of, I've seen a few discussions about how to make an armature for a tree so that you can make one that's actually quite structurally stable, so you can put things in it. And I thought this would be a good time to show you that. Now,
Mary Hedgehog said, if I'd have known I'd have got you one too. Isn't hers rulers?
we can share a ruler. We've gotten to that stage in our relationship, I think.
Mary Hedgehog says, is this one for Halloween?
It can be. I just I like putting owls in trees, and I couldn't be bothered to do a lot of foliage, so I thought this was a good solution. And I really wanted to show how I do my trees that are very structurally stable. Now, I've done a half copper. I've made the armature already, but I'm going to make it again to show you how I got this. And the reason why I'm doing this is because the wire that I use when I'm actually going to make a tree is one of the thicker wires that I have. So here's it all unbent. If you look at the head size compared to my finger, it's actually quite a thick wire. It's just a little bit thinner than a coat hanger, and it takes a bit to bend. You really do need to get your pliers out, so it takes a while for me to make the armature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it in really thin wire, tiny thin, so it's going to be really quick for me to make, but it won't be structurally stable, so I can show you the process easier. But what you're looking for is some thick wire, so that'll be a low number florist wire, or you can get bunches of metal coat hangers. That's what I got started with before I ended up with florist wire, although coat hanger wire is probably the thickest you want to go, because it is quite an arm, it messes your arms up bending that up properly. I tend to need to use 2 pairs of pliers. So what I've done here, you start out with that middle bit. See,
I bet coat hangers are difficult to use.
I've done it, and I do use them when I really need the structural stability. So when I do things like a dolphin jumping out the water, where the only thing touching the base is the tip of its tail, you really need coat hanger to get that level of arch to remain when you bake. So sometimes you just gotta suck it up and get the fact that you're gonna need to take a lot of rest bakes, maybe do it over a few days. But it needs what it needs, because there's nothing more depressing than looking through the glass in your oven and watch the thing in there falling apart. It's happened to me. You can do gluing techniques with it. I do need to do that with you guys, about good ways of fixing cracks and holes and things that have fallen apart. The long story short is there's not one method, so I can show you several. But today we're on tree armatures because there's been this talk. When I talk about groups that I'm part of on Facebook, by the way, the really good polymer clay ones, I'm part of the British Polymer Clay Guild, although you do have to become a member, but I think it's something small like £10 a year, maybe a bit more like 12, I don't know. But they're a really supportive, helpful group. Their online page isn't, it's a private group for members only, but they do have a free page, I think, but it's not as well used. There's the International Polymer Clay Guild. There's Hooked on Polymer. That's very busy. Polymer Clay UK. So there's several on there, and I really do advise, if you're a clayer, go join the groups on Facebook. They're very supportive, friendly, kind people. And you get a lot of learning and a lot of help and a lot of support. So, and also the British Polymer Clay Guild and Polymer Clay People both offer a Facebook mentoring scheme program, and I have signed up as a mentor on that. So do check it out if you want some one-on-one for free. Right, anyway, back to this. So I'm folding it in half, like that. Don't have to be exact, but you need half, and that is actually that bottom bit. That loop there is where all this lot comes from, but I'm going to show you the branches first. So you start out with one side, just double check inside to it exactly the same. Right, you're going to go fold it over at the top like that. You may want a bit more actually. There you go, folding it over. That brings that loop there. Then that comes out to the side like that, somewhere near the top, and you can bend the tip up like that. So that's your first bit, well that's your second bit, loop, and then that sort of loop like that. Then we're going over to this other side, we're gonna put them back together, wrap that round the back of the top loop. Hang on, no, bring a loop up and then wrap it round like that. So looped over, so you've got the second sticky uppy bit, and then instead of bringing it to the front, you're bringing it round the back. Sorry, let's get this, so like that. It's still fiddly even with thin wire. Pushing it flat, then that comes down like that. I'm not giving myself enough branch room on this, have I? Yeah, let's bring this all down a bit lower. Right, start this again and give myself more branch room. So right the way down here, bend it over, do that top bit, then that comes out and you've got a decent bit of branch. Then you do the next bend over on the opposite wire, give yourself a decent amount of branch room. Then that wire needs to loop round the back of the first like that, and then you can bring it back round so you're holding the top with a bit of a twist. If it's not very stable, it's far more stable on thicker wire, you can always do a double twist and then bring it round and have more branch. But
Fair Hedgehog asks, did you design the tree before you start so you know how many branches to do?
I knew I was going to do 2 out the side and 2 at the top, but what you'll find is from that you can put more wires in and then twist it on and branch out some more if you need some actually structurally stable wire, so that you don't have such a small tree. But because I'm having very few branches that are knolled, then yeah, is a short answer. So you've got the 2 forked bits at the top. That needs to be imagine that's a longer branch, because I had to wrap it around twice or it weren't going to hold. On this, as you see, I didn't have to bring it back round, just putting it round the back and then through the front like that. Oops, down. So it goes round the back there and then twists around the front there, and that holds the other bit in very, very stably on strong wire, but that's it on thinner wire. And as you see, this is why I don't use the thin stuff for a structural project. So at that bottom loop, I've then got wire. Let's get another one. And I have literally threaded it through, made a loop, brought it back round like that, thread it through again. There's the next loop. Then twist it round, keep twisting it and threading it so that you're forming loops until your wires almost run out, and then you join the two back up together, the two ends, and twist. Can I do that without my pliers with these? Yeah, and then twist. So you've got the loops going, and then you flatten it out on your glass board like that. Now it leaves the wires in place but very, very loose. You can just bring it up and down on the stick, and that's the case with that one. So that's why you then get another wire, and that doesn't have to be too thick. So if you see, the feet is a thinner wire than the body, because that's not going to really need to take much weight. It's just to stabilize it in the clay. And the wire I've used to thread through the loops and then wrap around, and then I've got my pliers and I just literally clamped and pushed it all down tight so that that's now a firm hold. Okay, save me bending up a third wire. So if you wanted, let's use some of my already messed up wire, save materials and all that. After I've finished, I'm going to untangle all this and flatten it out. Say you wanted more branches onto this structure, you could thread it in the loop, then twist round, and that brings out more branches. So just create loops if you want another branch in. So then I would twist a little loop, then you can thread your next one through, and then you've got another two branches. So but you may have to make sure that you either put a dab of glue in there, or you thread through a few more times before you bring the branches out, just to structurally stabilize that joint. But I don't want all those branches. Now you will also, if you're gonna make a branch that doesn't carry a lot of weight, you don't even need to add it to the armature. You can add it to the clay model just as a clay branch. So these are really only need to be the ones that are structurally stable. So once I've done that, I then just got my pliers and I bent a crooked shape so that it wasn't completely straight. So that's how I ended up with this armature. If you are worried about all the folding and getting it structurally stable, the other thing you can use is this metal epoxy putty. I absolutely adore the stuff, especially when I'm making complex armatures. So I've used this a lot when I made a complicated dragon wing joint. What you get in it, it looks like this. Now if you look in the inside, it's a grey ring around a dark grey centre. When you cut a slice of it, the proportions of the two bits are correct, so it's already for you to, you don't have to weigh up and measure out two lots of epoxy, which is useful. And I think it's got something like iron or some metal in it. I would wear gloves, some rubber gloves when I work with this, because you're going to need to mix it together in your fingers until the two colours, you don't see any streaks of any of it, it's all one colour. Then pack it in around the joint that you want, and it will dry like a welded joint. It dries like proper metal. It doesn't take very long to do so. That's why I do advise gloves and making sure you've got a bit of grease proof paper down in case you cause a mess.
I've not seen putty like that.
Yeah, and it literally, it ends up with all the same properties as a welded metal joint. So you can oven bake it, you can put it outside, it's as strong as a weld. It's a way almost of doing welding without getting fire and all the craziness involved. So instead of doing all that wire wrapping, I could have mixed up a blob and just literally smudged it in place and then left it to go hard. It's up to you. I advise getting a tube of it. I love the stuff. But if you don't have it, you need pliers. That's the minimum, because you can then make a tighter joint just by pulling wire taut and then crushing it on itself. So really difficult. It literally is metal. So any tool that you can cut through metal with, you can cut through that epoxy with. So maybe tin snips, maybe hacksaw, get your Dremel out. So yes, but you are dealing with cutting through metal. Right, what I've done is the base, I literally came in with my tissue blade and hacked the top off like that. I had to support the bottom edge and just bring it across, and it, if you look, it's not even, it's, you can see with the light, yeah, be rough about it, doesn't matter. So you need the extra though. What we're going to do is position our tree, and all this metal work underneath is going to go completely under all this clay. See? Yeah, but that's all going to vanish. It's all going to smoothen out once we've got this actually in. Now, you've got to be certain that you're happy with your placement, because once you start putting a top layer on, it is a real annoyance to try and, let's get some of that paper off. It's going to be really annoying to re-dig it back out. I mean, you can just pull it out, but yeah, it gets to be a faff. So what I've done is just torn into the middle, and I'm going to do that. See? Now, you don't want to trap air, so give space for air to go. So this side, I've only loosely placed it down, so that as I push from the opposite side down firmly, it's allowing the air to come out that side. An air bubble is a structural weakness. You don't want it if you can avoid it. There we go. That's all pretty firmly down. That's pretty much excess clay, which I'll need in a minute. So I'm going to get a rolling pin, just get it even more convinced that it wants to be stuck down before I start smoothing it all out, because the feet's going to change the thickness of the clay anyway. So that's why I weren't so worried about how I cut it up. So yeah, I mean, now it's roughly flat, although this back bit seems to be a bit more dipped than the front. So I'm just pushing on the clay, smoothing out any of those join lines and getting it into the shape that I want, and just encouraging some more clay to go into that space by just pushing some round. And you can push it in and shrink the size of the base if you wish, but it's important to get rid of all these join lines around the side. And many people have their favourite tool for smoothing in join lines. My favourite tool for it is my fingers. I find you can get to know the feel of clay, and you can move it around better with even pressure than I can with a rolling pin. Yeah, it's hard to explain, but you do get a feel for your clay over the years. Now, almost there on this side, but it's going to take a little bit of time just fiddling, because you don't want that base to look too rubbish by not putting the effort into smoothing it all down and joining it all in. Right, almost there. It was meant to be cooler today, but it's still absolutely boiling in this house. So we've got the windows open and the fan going, so I'm sorry if that causes extra noise for you all. But it's better than watching me pass out from heat stroke. I might actually get more viewers if I pass out on stream. What do you reckon?
I don't know.
Is that... No? No, I'm not that desperate yet now. Ooh, it's going to take a while before I ever am. The good thing is that where I'm just happy to be claying, it's nice having a view account, but it's not my main motivation for doing this. And if anyone is thinking about becoming a YouTuber, if your only motivation for doing it is your viewer numbers, you're going to be disappointed at first. It takes a long time to get the numbers that some of the popular trend-setting people get. Right, this is almost there. Just doing the last bit of smoothing down. I'm sorry if it's boring watching, but it's going to be a complete nightmare to try and do this at a later stage. So, last bit, smooth you in. There you go. Right, so we now got the base all on, smoothed out. I'll probably work on it a little bit more afterwards, but that tree is in there firm. Yeah, and that's what you want. So we can now start putting some brown clay around it. I'm going to keep that back as some spare clay, just in case I need to do any patching at any point on the base. I'd rather give myself extra clay over than leave myself no clay to patch. Because where I mix my own colours, it can be quite annoying to try and find the same blend again. And talking of mixing my own colours, these are what I've mixed up for this tree. A range of browns and greens for some mossy sort of colours. So these are the greeny colours, and those are all the browns. Now most of the browns, what I've done is the normal brown Fimo, then a big old chunk of black, and that leaves you with that colour. And then I started adding a bit of white to it, which gives us that sort of grey, almost smoky browns. I think that one I put a pinch of green in with the mix, which was this mix, the brown, black and white.
Fairy Hedgehog has said, don't try it, but I'm afraid it was in the toilet, so I don't know what that's in relation to.
Right, so just play around. I do advise playing around with colour mixing. It is very therapeutic, and you do start to, again, like with everything else, get a feel for clay. Now, if I was making a very big tree and I had quite a large trunk to make, you can get tinfoil and start to pad out any big areas and then put clay over the top. But what I would suggest is you cover the tin foil in masking tape before you put your clay onto it, because you risk having any little corner spiky bits of tin foil will poke out of your clay really easily, whereas for some reason spiky bits of masking tape never do. So that's a tip. But no worries. But this is going to be quite a thin tree. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to take chunks of brown and just start making a shape that I can push in onto the base and round that metalwork. But you don't want to trap air, so start at the very bottom, fold over and give space for the air to be going upwards, so like that. Do you see? Just slightly tapping it round and pushing any air up out of that top.
I like all those brown shades.
Thank you.
What I would suggest is occasionally, if you turn
See?
yeah.
So you end up with that. Now, I'm not even going to bother smoothing in that joint, and I'll show you why at the last stage. So what I'm going to start off by doing is just roughly coating all of this in that brown, the way I just did there.
Charlie's glasses, they will look gorgeous when they're all together creating the tree trunk and branches.
Thank you. That's my hope. So if you find that bit's too big, just rip it off. You really don't have to be neat with this stage, especially with a tree, because all these different thicknesses and join lines all become features of the tree itself. And we're going to come in afterwards and add a lot of distressing. I'll give you an example. I've gotten a load of clip arts of gnarly trees. So have a look at this. Can you bring it up? Do you see how much texture there is on it all? So actually just getting bits and whacking it on, so long as they're firmly fixed to the bit below it, you're all right. You know, you can really overthink this. So I find getting someone who is quite a perfectionist to make a gnarly tree can be both difficult for them and very therapeutic, because they end up with the best results the more scrappy they work. And it's a beautiful thing. Art does not have to be precise or neat to end up with beauty. I always suggest, when you go to sculpt anything, go Google Images and have a look. Look at drawings people have done of that particular subject. Look at photos of it. I do say you can look at other people's sculpting and clay work and models that are sold in shops and all that sort of stuff, but you're looking for shapes and proportions and size, rather than I'm going to make a carbon copy of what I see on the internet. You can find yourself getting into trouble if someone has shared pictures of their work and you copy it. I'm not bothered. It's especially on my stuff that's tutorial. I'd probably be kind of fed up if you started selling it on Etsy. But can you see how I just twisted that bit round and on, and it's left that nice sort of ridge in that branch? So all these lumpy bits, they're good, but you've got to be careful. Can you see there? You can see white through it. That's why I like having white covered wire, because if you're seeing the wire through it, that means you ain't got enough clay on there. But I'm going to do something more with that patch there in a bit, so that doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, keep a look at, make sure you've not got anywhere that is structurally unstable with your clay, or that you've trapped any air bubbles. And I'm just wrapping bits of clay round like that. Now the metal finishes there, but you don't need to finish your clay just where the metal is. You can come up into lengthening that branch if you wish. You can also add little side branches. So what I'd do is get some clay, twist it up, make it look gnarly.
Hearty Life says hello.
Hi Hearty Life. So quite gnarly, and then push that on at that joint. There you go. So you see what I mean? You can still add to those structural bits even though the wire doesn't go that far. I know I'm just working in one colour at the moment. Afterwards I'm going to add patches of other colour. I'm just getting myself a good base where the focus is that everything's joined on properly and there's no air bubbles in the clay, because where the tree's so thin you don't want air in that. Thicker pieces can get away with it, but this would, you're in the risks of crumbling. So there we go. I can feel just there is an air pocket, so use your needle tool or a bit of wire, just puncture that through, push that air out, and then you can, if you really wish, you can go over that joint like that. There we go. So one more bit to cover, and then we've got a base for that tree. Let's have a drink. Now, it has I have had a good week though. It's been nice having good weather, even though my breathing's been a bit off with it. I do love our summertime. I don't know how people manage in extremely hot countries. Was it Spain we went to and you could see the air shimmer, and I couldn't cope at all. So I have all the respect for people who live in exceptionally hot countries. I also don't know how people in very hot countries manage to play with their polymer clay, but we've got people claying everywhere. I find the hotter the room is, the more the clay becomes very sticky and harder to manage.
That's just the chat. I just realised that actually I can give you a window into it.
Right.
I'll keep
We've got the tree basically covered. Now.
Says air conditioning.
Yeah, right, I know. So I'm going to take off little bits and just put some lines in of different colours of brown. So I'm pinching off little bits, and they don't need to be uniform. I suggest you don't want them uniform. Just stretch them out. And they don't all have to be in lines. You can have patches. You can zig like this. So I'm putting in just little zigs and little different shapes, because we're going to come over with a pin tool and some tools just to shape it all in, but just little pinches. And you don't want everything smooth and perfect, because trees aren't. They're different colours and different shapes of brown going through them. So sorry, I will come and show you what I'm just doing. I'm just doing a little curve under that, see, like that. And to show, I've done that in 2 different bits and it's got a crack down it. That's all good. You want stuff like that. It's not ruined. You're actually going to end up with a better tree if you, again, you're doing scrappy bits. So notice I'm not putting any of the green on. I'm gonna get the tree bark the way I like it, and then I'm going to put moss on afterwards, because the moss will be stippled rather than this, which is going to have lots of lines. Yeah, because moss has got quite a spongy look. Now go around a bit like that, and it really is your own choice on how much you coat on these.
Just a question from me.
Yeah.
Are you deliberately saving enough for the owl of the colours, or have you?
I've done
already?
a separate brown for the owl,
Oh, I see.
because I don't want the owl's brown to appear in the tree brown or it will vanish, but you still want them both brown because they both are. So what I've done is, with these browns, it's very brown, black, white and green. The owl has lots of yellows and oranges mixed and reds mixed in with the brown, so that's quite a warm shades of brown, and this is very much a dark and dingy set of colours, if that makes sense. And the 2 will complement each other marvellously. I'm just tucking bits round and making sure I use some of all the different colours. I've mixed up far too much brown, but that's fine. I will have a million uses for varying shades. Another conversation I see a lot online is, what are good places to store clay that you've mixed up colours for? Because you don't want to put it back in the base brown packet. Did I drop some? I probably did. I'll get that in a bit. So what I've got is a set of plastic drawers. It's a metal unit. It's at the back, and there are drawers like that. There is 4 in a row, and they're 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 high. Now, with all my plastics, you've got to make sure before you load it up with clay, you get a bit of raw clay and you smear it onto your plastic somewhere out of the way, like that. Push it right in, smear it right in, then leave that sucker for 24 hours. If after 24 hours you can then peel the clay back off like that, no stickiness, then this is fine for you to store your clay in. Some plastics, polymer clay starts to dissolve, and it looks like you've literally, under your bit of clay, you put a bit of Pritt stick, and you can, if you leave it longer, you can literally peel it up. If you want to actually witness that happening, a surefire way of doing that experiment, you get a CD case. So all your music CDs, your computer games CDs, the old ROMs and all that, the plastic they use, especially for the clear cover,
It's very brittle.
it will react with polymer clay every time. So if you actually want to see the effect of polymer clay really reacting strongly and dissolving plastic, get an old CD case that you are ready to get rid of, and you will not be able to retrieve the clay because it will have melted plastic of a different type in it, and it.
It's not only that type of plastic, is it?
No, it's not. It's not just CDs. I just know that CD cases are a surefire. It's gonna happen on them. So
With the case.
back when I first heard about that, I was like, oh, I want to try this. I want to see. And it took me a while to find out that if you're like me, a little crazy scientist, and want to see the carnage, CD cases are the best thing to get started with.
Charlie Star says, you know plastic products have a little triangle with a number in it.
Yeah,
Number
C6.
plastics are best/worst with polymer clay.
6, I think number 6 is the one that don't work well, that melts. I can't remember which ones are fine. The problem is, part of my dyslexia is that it does not store numbers in my head, to the point I have no idea how old I am.
Yeah,
I work my life without numbers. I can add up, I can do sums and sort of money and all that sort of stuff, but actually remember a number, no, my brain's like, that is never going to happen for you, love.
Martin Hartelife says, Ginger Altman at the Blue Bottle Tree has done detailed experiments
Oh,
with
yes.
plastic number type.
I advise the Blue Bottle Tree to any player. There are so many articles on it, and they're absolutely fascinating and incredibly useful. So do go and give it a look. She really is just like the mad scientist of the polymer clay world. And the other thing is, she's a lovely person. I've messaged her several times with different questions, and the first time I really didn't expect a reply, because why would you? She's so busy. The amount of different stuff she does is huge, and she gets back to everyone. She's just so sweet. So don't feel worried about if you've got a question, can I go to her? Yes, you can. But yeah, and she doesn't just work in US products and information. She reviews a lot of UK products and a lot of European products, and goes through a lot of information about not just information of what you can and can't do with clay, but why that is, the science behind it. So can you see, I'm just literally coating this in different snakes of colour.
We appear to be dropping frames, but I don't know.
I'm sorry if we're dropping frames, people. Apparently we are, and hubby has no idea why. And I argue, if he don't know why, I'm never going to find it. Right, little patch in there. Yeah, you're...
The internet's gone down completely.
Have I lost all my viewers? It have...
This is red.
Right.
It's
Can any of you guys see me still? Say yes, because we're thinking our internet's just gone down. Anyone there?
no response. This is saying red. Oh, it's gone orange. Yellow. No, orange.
Ah,
So Hedgehog says the frame drops don't last long, but it went completely red.
eek. Hi, sorry everyone, we're dropping frames, and our machine keeps saying that the internet's dropped out. So I'm going to keep going and hope that it still lasts. So what I've got is a load of curls of clay. Now, before I texture this, I want to put some extra strength in this tree. So what I'm going to do is some roots. So I'm going to get a few different browns. I'm going to put them in rough strips. You don't want even thicknesses of it. So literally take a pinch, put it in a rough sort of strip, put another one on there, and we're going to twist this up and put it into different shapes like that. See? So it's all different shades of brown, and then we're going to push that at the base and rest it in to support that tree. And we're going to make a few of these now. Luckily, I am so glad that trees do put their roots above ground like that, so you can actually see some of them, because it helps prop up your structure to have them in. I think I would have far more tree failures if I didn't put these extra roots in that I'm doing. So there we go, that'll do. So can you see I've also not got them at exactly the same level? That's fine too. And I'm just going to do a rough twist like that, so they look nice and uneven and gnarly. Push the next one in. You want to make sure it's firmly secured to the base of your tree, and then with that tip you can shape it into big sort of loops. You can just have fun with it. So I'm making it sort of stick up a bit. So can you see I've done there's a nice little gap underneath it, so it really does start to look like a gnarly root. The other thing is you can take some really nice thick chunks and make a very thick root system. So like that. Let's get another thick bit of this colour. You want to try and make sure that the shades of brown aren't too similar to each other, so they do sort of stand out a bit. So let's do that. There we go. And a tiny little bit of this lighter one I'll put in there. Let's give you a twist. Yeah, move that in there like that. Let's make that a bit thinner. Now we are going to come over and start putting some lines onto these, so they do look like chunky colours. Don't worry, they're not. It's not at its finished stage. So this one I'm going to probably, let's bring it out like that and back round. Let's make a snake of it. Do one of them. Yeah, push it on, make sure that it is making this stable. Then let's do another little one just to go in there, and then we can start coming on and texturing it all. Right, nice little one with some different browns. I know if you look in my Etsy shop there won't be very many trees. I think there's either 2 or 3 of them in total, which is surprising because I actually really like making, especially these old crookedy ones. As a child I always loved the old and gnarly looking tree rather than the ones that look perfect. These ones always fascinated me more. So it just it's part of my life of fascination, and now that I get to make them I'm even happier. So I think that's enough roots in there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along, I'm going to get some different size tools. So I've got some pin tools and nice wide metal. It's not a blade, there's nothing sharp on it, but it's a sculpting tool. So various anything you got around the house, and you can use tweezers, you can use ball tools, anything to add a bit of texture. The other thing that comes in some sets that is quite good, it's like a metal comb and little metal teeth, and this is very good for getting some of that fine texture in there. So what I'm going to do is I'll start off making some of the bigger marks. So you're going to go in and just put some shapes in. Can you see? So I'm not only just using the flat, I'm using different sides of this tool just to put some added textural lines in. I'm just starting with the roots because it's easiest. I just have made the better part of a tree and I'm texturing it in. So I'm coming in with, actually let's come over onto here. Now, you don't want to uproot your tree, so make sure that you're putting your hand behind it and you're being kind of gentle, but you're going to come in and just start to put some deeper lines so that the tree's not so smooth. And some of these bits you can push them on and shape them so they don't just look like snakes of clay wiggled on. Basically, they look more like gnarls. So that's it so far. You see, I've been pushing my tool in to all these little blobby bits and just making them look less the same as each other. And I'm going to come around, once I've used this one on most of it, I'm going to come around with something else and just get some different lines. But the interesting thing with this is your mind tells you what it expects to see in a tree like this. So so long as you're roughly there, you will find people will still like it. I don't blame you. That sounds wonderful. I am going back to bed as soon as I finish this. It's been a difficult day, but I hope you feel a little better from the sleep, although I know with our condition, we've both got CFS, that sleep is not restful, which is really annoying because you want to go to sleep and wake up feeling a bit better, and that's just not a thing. But sometimes you've got no choice, you just got a nap. Thank you. We totally understand that. Yeah, there comes a level of tiredness where you've got no choice about it.
I'm a bit worried that you're overdoing it.
Well, at the moment I'm sat still and I'm not doing anything massively strenuous like a cane.
Evil Monkey says you got it spot on, Kylie. I may as well have run a marathon before we did it, didn't we?
Yeah, it's a pretty annoying condition. I totally understand. I've had it for a long time. Although mine has potentially got a chance to get better. I've got a test for sleep apnea, and if I come up as positive for it,
that's a rough deal.
yeah. If I has that, so that far,
Yeah.
right? I will show you what I'm up to in a minute. I'm just Right, so I'm just texturing in. Can you see some lines, some deeper ones, and then I'm gonna come over in a bit and put some finer sort of scratchy lines in to look more like tree bark. These are just those sort of big dents that I'm trying for here, like that. Now you can also put some little knots in with some ball tools, it's up to you. I'm gonna come in probably with that tool and just start to brush over it, and you will find it does kick off little pieces of clay, so I wouldn't suggest doing this over a white base unless you've got rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol. If you haven't got one of these tools, you can just literally use a pin tool and come in and do little lines all across. Just scratch, 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 scratch. But I like the texture this gives, so since I got it, I'm gonna use it. Now, remember there are bits where you've not got wire, so make sure you don't bend them out of shape too much when you're texturing them. You can bake your clay and then add raw clay and texture the raw clay so that you're not messing up bits you've already textured. But I'm just going over quickly and roughly, putting in some of these scratch marks. I will hold it up in a second, but I'm just trying to get through it in the interest of time. The set of tools that I got this from are really cheap off eBay. If you put in sculpting tools or soap making tools or dentistry tools or sugarcraft tools, these are all terms which have tools that can be useful in clay making. You're not attached properly, there you go. So don't just put in polymer clay tool and think that's your only options that you've got for your claying, because it totally isn't. There is more out there and you can end up with some really interesting effects. I think this, candle making, and did I say soap making? That's another one. And there are a lot of people out there who started out with sugar crafting and moved to polymer clay because there's very similar textures in raw sugarcraft sugar as there is to polymer clay. So the two really do transfer quite well to each other. Right. Now, if I hadn't done a wire armature and I tried to do this level of rough texturing onto just clay, I would be completely wrecking this model. It just wouldn't hold. So there really is something to be said with taking the time just to put the wire in place so that it is strong. Now, the trick is don't pull the raw clay off with the texture tool. The other thing I've seen people use that isn't this sort of wire bristle, you can get, they look like toothbrushes but with wire bristles instead of the type of plastic bristle you'd use to brush your teeth. They're made for cleaning, so you'll find them especially in the pound shops. I've got a set of those that I use for big areas. Right, I'm just getting there. Sorry this is taking some time, but it will be worth it. I will hold it up to the camera in a second and show you what I've been up to here.
I think I've solved the frame drops by telling everyone else in the house to stop using the internet, which is a bit rude.
Okay, apparently all my family have fallen on their sword and have agreed to stop using the internet whilst I'm doing this stream. So, thank you everyone, that is really kind of you. And I won't be at it all night, I promise. Right, now can you see the amount of gear that kicked off? I'm going to get a brush and just brush some of that off of my base. You can make it into a pole and push it back on your tree, and that'll be even more texture. But at the moment I've got a very brown base. But that's alright. You can also, see the thing is, it's very hard to do this level of texturing and all that and then put it on the base, because you just can't do it that way round and put the feet in that I did, those little petal shaped bits of wire. So let's pick it up, brush it off as much as I can. There we go. Right, can you see the kind of texture in that gave it? So it's no longer got that shiny look to it. It's very much old and gnarly. Now, once I've got rid of some of this brown, I'm going to put some green to it, and then we'll make an owl. I'm probably afterwards going to go over with some alcohol and just give it a bit of a clean up. So we want patches of moss. So again, you don't want it too even, so I'm just going to pinch off some of the sides so that that looks more like a uneven, scrappy.
That looks really cool.
Yeah, it really does work out brilliant. So I'm going to put a patch of moss in there, and what I'm going to do is, instead of doing lines, what I did with that tool was do streaks. I'm going to stabby dee, stabbity, stabbity, and make a very speckly look on that moss. Now I'm holding the rest of it very, very loosely, because you don't want to rub off the texturing you just put on. But how effective is that? Oops, zoom in. Let's put it up the right way. Can you see? Really does look like moss. Now this tool comes in with a set of like 20 other tools. Every tool I use apart from my ball tools with the wooden handle came with this, so there's just huge amounts of them. Let's put another patch of moss in. This patch of moss I'm going to mix a few greens, so tear some of this off. And let's put a light one, just smudge a little bit in there, bring it up. Can you see I'm just smudging it on and smudging the other green in so that it's not clean lines. There we go, that's what we want, some smudgy. Right, I'll bring this up. There you go. Can you see I've smudged in a lighter green over the dark green? And then when we put that on and texture it, that will look really interesting.
So many buttons.
So that's going down the bottom there, and again you're stabbing it with your texture tool, and you can just use a pin for this, but it will take you forever. Worth it. That's what I started with, and I have done. But yeah, have a look at that. See what I mean? So just smudging in that bit of extra green. I'm going to put another bit round the front, I think, like that. So this time I'm going to go lighter green background, as the main green. So like that. Do a flat. Then get a pinch of darker green and put it on, and just use your finger and smudge it in different shapes. Like that. And let's get another medium. Just smudge that in. Whoop. Pick you back up. That's alright. It's good that it's torn up. It makes it less even. There we go. See? Now I'll put that up in the top corner like that.
I agree, it's looking great.
And I love stabbing like this. Word of warning, I have missed and stabbed my thumb, and you get all those needles all the way through. So it's yeah, you don't bleed heavily, but it stings like a bleep 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 bleep. Just stabbing it in, and it's one of the things I had to learn very, very early on, because I was rubbish when I first started at this, was paying attention to how much pressure I'm using on the hand that I'm holding the clay with, not just the hand where the tool is. It's easy to end up consumed with one hand and not notice that you're crushing the rest of your work and smudging it, and you have to go over everything you just did. Sorry, a bit more forward.
Next time we can move the camera back so that it's more of the way you prefer to work.
Here we go. Let's show you that. Oops, there we go. Nice bit of moss around the front like that. So I reckon that looks like a reasonably gnarly tree to me. So front facing like that, because it's got a bigger space there. Let's do a clean up before we end up dealing with the owl. So yeah, the joys of texture tools. Right, let's move these browns out the way, because you're gonna need to do. Thank you. Once it's baked and varnished, it'll end up in my Etsy shop if you all love it that much. There will be one of it, so have fun being the first one there. But I doubt there's a rush, because I sell so little on my Etsy shop. It probably will stay there a while. But right, quick clean up. Now, and a drink. Let's get on to owl making. So first off, decide which branch we're going to put the owl on, which I think should be that one there. So, owl clay. Now I've looked up some owl facts for you, because I find owls really fascinating. And the thing that I didn't really think that hard about, but found out in my research, you know how we believe owls to be a really wise animal? Yeah, not so much. Turns out that their brain has to be small, because so much of their skull is taken up by their eyes, and a lot of their brain is used for detecting and translating sounds and visions. So that actually people who are bird trainers have reported them as one of the hardest birds to train, just because they're kind of stupid. It's actually far easier to train a pigeon than it is to train an owl. To just do the most basic things like fly from a perch to your arm when you make this whistle.
Hedgehog says, if you're
the owls.
Says it will create dramatic tension.
This owl is going to be really quick and easy. But thank you. No, thank you. But this owl is really not going to be a difficult task at all. Right. So we need to take off from our block of brown a bit for the wings. That's all. The rest of this is our body. So we're going to roll into a ball. Turn that blade away because I can totally see me cutting myself on it. I know, they are literally dumber than pigeons, yet pigeons are seen as a stupid bird. But in the Second World War, more pigeons won medals than any other animal. They were doing all the sending messages, doing really actually some really crazy flights where they were very much shot at a lot and got through it all and delivered a message and saved an army of people that were stranded or that sort of thing. So we don't like them because they're very successful, but pigeons are very smart birds. Right, I've teardrop shaped it, but the top of it hasn't gone into a point. It's quite a stumpy flat teardrop. So what we're going to do, we get one side and we just pinch it in a little bit and then up, and you're forming that shape. And you do the same the other side. Now, the other weird thing, you think you can see the ears with those big sticky uppy bits, but they're not, they're feathers. Most of the feathering, the shape of their face, the flatness and the dish of their eyes, it's all to transmit sound towards their ears. And their ears are not even like ours are on the same level on our head. One ear's higher than the other and one ear's bigger than the other. And what that does is it allows them to detect directional sound very accurately. I'm just folding those top bits over just so they do a little downward point like that. So that is where we're at now. But their ears are wonky and asymmetrical in size and shape, which is cool. The other thing that is interesting about them is you can tell a lot about an owl by its eye colour. There are a couple of eye colours. There is yellow, orange, brown, black. I know you see on the internet blue, but no, there ain't blue eyes. I think some snowy owls, and there's one obscure species that has a sort of grey blue. One of the owls' 3 eyelids, because they have an eyelid to blink, an eyelid to wash their eye, and an eyelid for protection. Well, one of the eyelids is a slightly bluish shade, so it can kind of make the eye look grey blue, especially if it's a pale yellow. But unfortunately, those stunning blue eyes you see on a lot of the internet, that's Photoshop. But the owls with yellow eyes come out in the day. The eyes that are orange, they're twilight, so dawn and dusk. And the black and brown eyes, they come out at night time. It makes sense. You don't want bright yellow or bright orange eyes if you're trying to hunt things at night. It's a bit of a giveaway. So you want the darker eye colours. But their eyes are very odd. They don't have eyeballs like we have. They have rods that are held in place by like a bony thing. So where we can move our eyeballs around and look left and right, an owl can't do that. That's why it has all that head moving. It's so that they can get a depth perception, because their eyes are literally fixed in one place.
That's fascinating.
Isn't it? It's so different from us. But their skill sets are so amazing. there's a species of owl that can literally hear under snow. So what it does is it lives in a very snowy area, and it listens to mice actually digging and burrows under the snow and dives in and hunts them. And it can hear up to, what did it say, 12 inches below snow. So you can have 12 inches of snow and a mouse running under it, and the owls can hear it. So that is some serious hearing. Right, I put dots on, and I'm using a ball tool just to make those nice big dish shaped eyes that you got with an owl, like that. Now I'm going to do something a little extra for its tummy, and I need you guys' help.
Charlie's glasses, that's impressive.
I know they are. What we've got is some brown cat's eye. Yeah, either that, or we've got a little bit of labradorite, looking like that. That can go in there, or a yellow glass bead, which I will back with foil, or this nice big shell teardrop in like that. Which one do you reckon? Say shell. What I'll do with the shell is I'd mount the beak on that top bit there, so it will vanish that bit.
Little Monkey says
So
they're like the cat's eye. Charlie Star says, "Ooh, pretty. I'd go with the labradorite."
right, so with cat's eye, labradorite, Artie Hearty Life or Gina, can you, Fairy Hedgehog rather, can you vote either cat's eye or labradorite for the stomach, please? I need a decider.
Charlie Star says, "All the shell is gorgeous too." Fairy Hedgehog says they're all good, and Artie Hearty Life says they're all gorgeous.
Right, okay, I'm picking one. Artie Hearty Life.
I would do
Pick a hand.
I would
A or
do
B?
the labradorite because it has more contrast with the
A, B.
Artie Hearty Life says, "Show us again."
Okay. That's the labradorite. So it's,
Very focused.
let's focus. So it's got the bluey greeny lines, and that's the cat's eye.
Artie Hearty Life picked B, but we don't know which. That was.
Right. I'm going to go with probably, I don't know, probably the labradorite, because it's a bit more of a different colour, yeah?
Contrast, yeah.
Bit more of a contrast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some tin foil, put my stone on the tin foil. Then where is my craft knife? See, I got that out earlier and I was all completely...
Meaning labradorite, so yes, this one.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do it with this. Can't find my craft knife. Right, blade down. You're going to cut out the rough shape in the foil. Whoops, don't do that. We
Little
can
Monkey
always...
says, "Upon second viewing, I agree."
What are we going for? The labradorite?
Labradorite,
Yeah. So just roughly round. You don't have to have it perfect because you can always fold the foil back.
yeah. Evil Monkey Spice says, "I just love cat's eyes. I was torn by it."
Yeah.
Artie Hearty Life says, "I was torn by it."
It will be in other stuff. Don't worry. It's not going in the dustbin. So can you see I've just done enough just to put at the very back of the stone.
The autofocus doesn't work, so
Sorry, the
gotta give me a second.
autofocus doesn't work. So just enough just to cover majority of the back of the stone. And then we're going to get it, position it where we want with the foil in place.
Can you line it up more centre on the camera so we can see the
So
bottom?
like that. And then I'm going to support the back because I don't want to lose that rounded shape. I'm going to push this stone in and just start to bring the edges. Whoop.
Even work as best as I've got some diddy shells here for you, Carly. I forgot about it.
What's a giddy shell?
Diddy, meaning
Oh,
tiny.
diddy small. I thought you said giddy. I was like, does that mean they're going to pass out? But thank you. So I'm just making sure that the clay is in place and that it's all the way around the outside of the stone so it will hold it in place. And I'm now just bringing the shape back that I want. So I want it squatter. So I'm just pushing on the head, just bringing it round. I want some more round the front there because it's not rounded enough. See, like that. And let's just check that's all in place how I want it. Yeah, if you want to get the teardrop shape back, you push at the base of the neck and down, and that will bring it back to having a nice rounded bum shape. And then you can start to take that flat edge off the sorry. Then I'm just tapping around to get rid of that flat edge off the bottom. Although you are going to want a bit of a flat edge. Now, if you want the line up to be a bit better, you can just fiddle around until you've got it where you want. But I reckon that's all right for me. We're gonna get some orange. Let's put a beak on you. So, little bit off. Roll it into a ball. And then once you've got the join lines out, what I do is I use my thumb, push one side flat, and then I take the other side and just start to twist like that. So you're getting that sort of rounded beak shape until you get enough point that you want. And that is going to go in the middle like that. Then get your pin tool, support the other side and just draw a beak line in so it's got a mouth like that. Reshape it back up into a point. There we go. So we've now got a beak with a mouth. Can you focus? Thank you. See, we've got a beak with a mouth and the labradorite in. We've still got to put the little black dots in the eyes, and we've got to make some wings, and we've got to make some feet. So let's go for wings next. Okay, you're gonna make sure you've got enough clay. So the easiest thing to do is just literally hold it up against your owl. Make sure that the two balls that you end up with for each wing, one for each wing rather, are the same size, because it does look odd when you've got two wings that aren't even. So like that, roll them out. Then into a little teardrop and push it flat like that. And I'm going to put this in front of me, and I'm going to show you another little thing that I have made to help me out for some wing texturing. What I've done is I got two sizes of eyelets, a bigger one and a smaller one. Can you see? And I've embedded them in a stick of clay and baked it. And what that means you can do is you can go along and put the little rounded side and make little suggestions of feathers. Once I've done this, I will hold it up and show you. That one looks even better than the other one. I might have to smooth that one down because that ain't even as nice as the other one. So you can always rub it out, reshape it back up, and then go through and do a tidier. There we are, that's better. That's what I like with clay, nothing's permanent. Bring it back off. Right. Do you see? What? Just using that little loop part of your eyelet makes those nice little wing feathers. Now, you want to put the tip of your wing in line with the bottom of your beak. Sorry, the shoulder of your wing in line with your beak. Like that. Other side. There we go. We now have that. So, home stretch, we're on feet and we're on a couple of little eye dots. So let's do the little eye dots first. You need tiny, tiny little balls of black to go in the middle of those eyes, or it looks creepy. So,
that looks really cool. Could you use it for scales too?
Yep, I use it for mermaid scales, for dragon scales. It's a really useful tool to make yourself. And literally, you're looking at eyelets like this, and what I've done is I held one end, that top bit with some pliers, and then I got that bit and just bent it slightly back on itself so the eye head is at that sort of diagonal. Yeah, so it's like that. And then build the clay up, push it in really tight, and then bake it. Right, tiny little eyes. That's one. And again, you want to make sure that you've got the same amount of clay for each eyeball, or it will look like your owl's had a stroke. Which it's a look, but it makes all the difference just putting some eyeballs in. I know I'm the clay artist, but I find it really creepy when I'm making stuff before I've got the eyeballs in. When you've just got half eyes or blanks, it's just weird. The amount of cat hair I get in this room, and the cat generally ain't allowed in it. I don't know what I'd do if it was allowed in it by its own free will. I think end up getting into felting rather than clay. So, 2 little balls. These are going to be the feet. We're going to push them flat. Then I'm going to get a ball tool. I'm going to go 1 dot in the middle, one side, and then the other side. So in the middle, one side, the other side. Then the back of it, little pinch, and you end up with that. And little pinch.
Has a rolling on the floor laughing spell.
Right. Now, what I do is I position the feet on the board the width apart I want, and then place my owl in line over the feet, and then just push down on the head so that, oops, helps if I don't knock an eyeball sideways. There we go, that's better. Right, so then he's in place, and then I'm going to use my blade to free the feet up. Right, owl, all sorted. See, so quick to make an owl. They are not the most challenging thing ever, I promise you. It's quick, quick, quick. Right, let's get him. And now we're going to need to position him. So I'm going to put a wing up there. I'm going to put this on here like that. Whoop. Don't knock your beak off. What do you reckon? Now, the next question is, do I want to embed a crystal? Sorry, let's put it to its side. Like that.
I think it was better without.
I've got different coloured crystals.
Charlie stuff is adorable. Now go with that.
Do you reckon it should have a crystal heart on with it in the base of the tree?
Chips is wonderful.
So like that. No? Anyone else?
Not had any responses.
I'll have to make a decision on this at some point.
Chips says, he's so cute. Not sure.
I think it actually kind of looks better without. I think this one.
Chips says, go for it. Charlie Star says, absolutely gorgeous, honey. The grey one would look good.
Yeah, actually, I think maybe the grey one. I think that's what I might do. And how I made those roots, I'm going to twist some clay around.
Monkey Spice says less is more.
Less is more. I will have a think about it over the next few days, and if I decide to do it, I will show you how it all, well, either way I'll show you how it ends up. But gnarly tree and an owl. Let's bring it up close to you. Yep. And that tree is strong enough. It's not going to fall apart in the oven. Okay. So anyone makes trees in the future or owls, do send me a picture. I'd love to see. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you all so much. You're all very kind about my work. And I will have this finished up and in the shop, hopefully in over the next week. Okay, have a good week. Bye.